Hello and welcome back to the History of Video Games. My name is Ben, and I'm joined by the one and only Wes. How you doing, Wes?
I'm doing great. How you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a nice Sunday. It hasn't been too hot this weekend, I think, so it's been pretty good.
Yeah, we had some crazy hot and humid days there for a while, so a little bit of a break.
Sometimes Pennsylvania can feel like Florida or something. I don't know how, but it can.
Yeah, for all the temperate weather we get, but
It seems to either be wetlands level humidity or it's snowing. There's
right.
no in between.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been pretty good lately. How have you been, man?
Been doing pretty good, and I guess I can start us off with some of the games that I've been playing recently.
Yeah.
Because whether it's for the podcast or my own horrible habit, I still switch games just about every week. For your entertainment, but not really, because I'd probably be doing it anyway. And so I switched off of Darkest Dungeon, and after finishing up Hollow Knight, I was like, I want something real story-driven RPG-ish. And going through my Steam catalog, looking at things that I had never beaten, still trying to beat my whole backlog of games, and saw that I had the Steam version of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
And I had gotten so close to beating it before. I had it on, I guess it was Xbox when I was a kid. Played almost all the way through it. And then, spoiler alert, towards the end, the Lady Jedi who's with you the whole time, if you pick certain options or whatever, she confesses her love for you. And little me, when I was a kid, couldn't handle that. So I just closed the game and never played it again.
Oh, it freaked you out.
For whatever reason, yeah. So now I'm back. I think I can handle that dramatic plot point this time.
Yeah.
And it is so good. The Steam version is absolute garbage, to be fair. It's not a very good transfer over to Steam. You can't play any of the in-game cutscenes that are not in-game graphics, or else the game crashes every time you start it.
What?
So, yeah, and it's never been fixed for some reason. You can fix it through a bunch of workarounds, but I just decided to turn all the videos off and watch them all in a YouTube playlist in the background.
It's pretty cool that someone made that, though.
Yeah, it was actually IGN or PC Gamer or somebody just had
oh, cool,
all the cutscenes. I don't know if it was because the game is so busted or if they just did it for nostalgia reasons. And then, of course, because it's a game from 2003, the resolutions are not what I hoped they would be. Sort of like the problem I was having with Republic Commandos, where on the menu screen, if I tried to move the mouse, it just shot all the way across with any tiny movements. I had to find the right resolution to make it so when I click on something on the screen, it actually matches up with what it's supposed to.
Does it work with controllers?
It probably does, and I don't know why I haven't tried that. I guess because it was an RPG, I always thought of it as a mouse and keyboard kind of deal, but I might give that a shot. I have it letterbox, and it works fine, but it is 1/3 of the screen that I'm viewing, basically. But all those things aside, just some funny troubles I was going through to play this game. It is still such a good game. I feel so much better at it than when I used to play it, because I don't think I read any of the stats or any of what the moves did when I first played it. And I didn't realize it's literally turn-based, D&D style. Stats have this effect on this move, and then this move is a roll against the other person's will check to see if they get stunned. And it actually says that in the game. I never realized it was that pretty much all our RPGs are D&D inspired, but you really see a lot of it in the instructions for this, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. So
I'm gaming the system a little bit more and actually understanding how to do the fights where I previously got wrecked. Still get wrecked a lot and have to kind of save scum and reload the save to make sure I get this stun off just by a roll instead of, the 3 times I didn't get it and I get absolutely destroyed. But super good. I love the characters. And another thing that I didn't realize, because the first time I played it was before BioWare made the first Mass Effect, is that this is also basically the precursor to all the Mass Effect games.
I can totally see that.
Yeah, it's like looking back at it now from having played the whole Mass Effect series and like playing that a lot more than I played this. This is like the bones of it. If you take away Star Wars, it's like exactly the same as the first Mass Effect. It's hilarious. All the dialogue options, the way that it like encourages you to talk to your companions, the fact that you have like 9 companions and you bring 2 of them on mission at a time. So it's been really funny seeing all the similarities and just going back through it. And still,
is it made by BioWare?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So I think it really was them. Like, they probably have made other stuff too that I just don't even know about. They like made this RPG, and it's sort of, I'm sure Dragon Age is kind of like that too. Isn't that BioWare? Or
yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I haven't played those either, but it's funny. There's just so many gameplay elements that are exactly the same as Mass Effect.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been so good running through it. I'm not too far in it yet, but I'm loving it. I'm a Jedi, swinging my lightsaber. Like, how much better can you get?
I know. Did I play that in college? I feel like it's been a while since I've played it, but I did play it somewhat grown up. Although I don't think I beat it because it's an RPG and I never beat those.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, this one at least, I'm almost thankful. It's like you have 3 planets to go to, but when you go to the planets, they're pretty linear. Like, you explore a bit, but you like go one direction and you find the wall, and then that's it. But it's kind of perfect for the experience I wanted of just like a nice condensed RPG.
Yeah. Dude, you gotta play Dragon Age, man.
I know.
It's so good. And it's basically like this mixed with Kingdoms of Amalur. I mean, it's great.
I know. I don't know why I slept on those for so long. I think they were on Origin Game Store and I didn't feel like downloading them or something.
That's a good reason. I mean,
although I did do it for Mass Effect Andromeda and Mass Effect 3.
Oh, well, one of those you got scummed on.
Yeah. I still haven't beat Mass Effect Andromeda. It was a good game too, but I don't know. But yeah, so that's, tune in for, who knows, a month down the line. I'll probably be playing Dragon Age. But
okay.
Yeah, I've been loving it. I'll report back more because I'm determined to finish it this time.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to. Have you been playing more WoW recently? Is that the...
I have. I've been doing some other stuff, but I want to talk to you about something that's been really bugging me about WoW, and that's the fact that you just level up so easily. The game forces you to skip a bunch of content, essentially, because you just like out level it, you know? And some of the dungeons and stuff, like, you can start to queue for a group for them at, like, say, level 58, but then at level 60, it's closed. It's like, well, I could level up 2 levels in, like, an afternoon. Like, I didn't even realize I was skipping stuff, you know?
Right,
and then the majority of the game just kind of comes down to you doing old content and one-shotting everything. And don't get me wrong, it's fun to one-shot stuff sometimes, but I don't want to be doing it for like hundreds of hours, you know? And it feels weird that, like, especially if I'm versing a character that's like big in the lore, like Ragnaros, you know, that I can just walk in and one-shot it. It's like, well, come on, it doesn't feel good, you know? Like, I don't feel like I earned the fact that I could beat him or anything, so it's like an issue I've been having, and it's been taking away my enjoyment of it. But I was kind of like looking on the forums and seeing what people said about the issue, because I didn't know if I should maybe like load up classic WoW and try that, or just play a different character and just get the, you know, do the stuff I missed on this character. And I found out that they have something called an XP capper in each of the capitals for the Horde of the Alliance. And I was like, oh, that could be cool. So basically you talk to it as an NPC, and then they just make it so you can't level up until you talk to them again.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, that's really cool, because now I can go at my own rate. I don't have to worry about over leveling. And I found some friends, and we're basically going to do the dungeons and try to do them at the lowest levels that we possibly can. We don't want to be like masochists about it, but it'll be like the first time that any of us will go into a dungeon and actually have to learn what some of the bosses do. Because even with like a normal 5-man group at the level that you're supposed to do them at, like, nobody cares or reads, because you can just like easily go through and no one's gonna die. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a joke. But if we did that content with only 3 people instead of 5, already that's like, whoa, that could be a challenge. And we're going to try to do it even below level. So I'm really just super excited about it. It's like totally got me back in, to playing. Although I kind of have to wait for the other people too, so I can't play as much as I want to. But it's something I'm really looking forward to doing. So I think that'll be really cool. And I just like had no idea that whole mechanic even existed. I don't think like WoW advertises it, obviously. So it's very interesting, and it'll be really cool. We're gonna do the dead mines and just like actually have to learn the fights and stuff. It'll be cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm really pumped about going back.
So you're starting a new character for that then, or?
Yep, I have to start a new character. Gonna do a paladin this time because there's 3 of us. I'm gonna be a tank, I guess, which I've never done before. But I'm gonna try it out. And then for my other character, that'll be the character if I need to do like 100 runs of a dungeon or something. I can just go through and one shot it.
Right.
So that's always an option still. But that character is like so boring now. It's like I just do dailies and other quests that respawn once a week, or like it's so stupid. Like I go through and I can one shot Ragnaros, but I have to wait a full week before I can do it again because it's a locked out thing for no reason.
Right, yeah.
Like I don't know why a piece of really old content like that, like I feel like the reason they lock people out is so you can't farm the gear over and over again, but like the gear is terrible now. So
right, it's just everyone wants that sulfuros and they don't want everyone having it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I actually got that, but I have a warlock, so I can't even use it, and I don't think you can trade it. So it's just sitting in one of my bags right now.
It'll look pretty in the bank. That's about it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of, I feel like with my main character, it's just kind of lame stuff right now. Eventually, I won't have to do so many dailies, and it'll be a bit better. But I don't know. I feel like the end game is just so bloated for no reason. It's
right.
like if there's an option where I could just like farm something out in order to get reputation or whatever it is that I need, at least I can go out and do that and spend time on and working it out, farming. But when you're just like, you can only get this by doing a quest that spawns once a week, it's like, come on. Like this is turning into a mobile game where you're preventing me from playing the game.
Right, yeah, you ran out of energy to make turns or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just not fun, but hopefully it won't have to be there forever. I'm only doing it in a certain zone to get something, and then I'll be able to move on, but it's still annoying. But yeah, that's what I've been doing, and what I'm going to continue to do. So
nice.
I'll let you know next week or whatever how it goes. I feel like we're going to get destroyed because I think Dead Mines opens up at level, or the recommended I think is level 15, but it opens up at 10, so it'll be 3 level 10s going into a 5-man level 15 dungeon. So we'll see.
I mean, I remember wiping on Dead Mines back when I played, although I also wasn't good at the game and it was also vanilla. So
yeah, no, it totally makes sense. But like nowadays, you can't even go at your own pace. Like if the tank pulls the next group, they're just gonna pull it, and you just kind of sprint through because nobody wants to like just chill. Usually, like it's probably their 1000th time that they've done it. So
right,
yeah, it's just a little different.
Well, that's good. It makes it sound like you have a way that you can get as close as you possibly could to experiencing like content at release, basically, and not feeling like a backlog that you're trudging through to get to like quote unquote the good stuff.
Right. And it's also cool because I'm doing so many things I've never had to do before. Like since I'm level 10, I was literally looking up like best in slot gear for level 10s, like nobody ever has to think about that because they're level 11 in like a minute.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, that's what I've been setting up.
Nice.
But should we move to the special topic, Wes? We got a kind of interesting one here today.
Yeah. So why don't I get us started off with this? We're going to be talking about a computer that comes out in 77 that we've been mentioning a lot, but never really talking much about. The TRS-80. which is one of the holy trinity of computers in 77, when talking about TRS-80, Apple II, and then the Commodore PET for the holy trinity. But just to get into some of the history of the TRS-80, it was created by Tandy's Corporation, which owns Radio Shack, or owned Radio Shack. I've never heard of them before, but I'm guessing they maybe still owned it. I don't know. And that's actually where the name for the TRS comes from. It's Tandy/Radio Shack, which is kind of boring, but yeah, that's what TRS-80 is basically. And basically it started out in about 76 and 75 when an employee named Don French bought a kind of build your own microcomputer kit, made his own design, and showed it to the vice president of manufacturing, John Roach, who, it said in the Wikipedia article, wasn't impressed, but liked the idea of selling computers. Which is funny. This guy's like, look at this thing I made. And he's like, I don't like that, but we could do it better. Yeah. So starting there, they kind of got the idea for Radio Shack and Tandy's Corporation to sell a microcomputer. And the design for the prototype started all the way back in December of 1976, with the company putting an emphasis on keeping the cost as low as possible. Apparently at that time, Radio Shack and Tandy's Corporation were known for not selling super expensive products. And they were like, if we make an expensive computer, nobody's going to buy it. So just make this super cheap computer. And there was kind of some back and forth about that. Eventually, it was greenlit by the head of Tandy's Corporation in February of 1977 to go from prototype into actual development. And with some of the compromises and being able to get in some more expensive parts that they were able to do at the time of developing it, it ended up costing, for the base model, $399, which is $1,683-ish today. Or if you got the version that had a 12-inch black and white monitor and tape recorder with it, it was $599, which is around $2,500 today. So a lot of money. I forget what the other computers are at this time, but it seems like a lot. It might have been like modestly priced for a personal computer at the time, but I'm not positive.
I have here the Apple II, which I think was the most expensive of the three, sold at $500 each. So quite a lot more, I think, right?
For the base model of it? Or
yeah.
Yeah, because this with the monitor was $599, but it was $399 for basically the computer itself.
Right. Yeah, it says it was about twice as much as the TRS-80.
Gotcha. So they originally planned on only making 3,500 of these because the head of the company basically, it sounded like, didn't think these were going to sell at all. And they were like, well, we have 3,500 Radio Shacks. We'll make 3,500 computers. And if none of them sell, then all the Radio Shacks just get a computer that they can use.
Nice.
So playing it super like, it's fine. Nobody's going to buy this. Just make the minimum amount. But then later in 77, they showed it at the Personal Computer Fair in Boston. And shortly after that, 15,000 people called the company to order TRS-80s. So right out the gate, it was much more popular than they thought. But they kind of had the capability to follow up on this. And a lot of the other companies like Commodore and Apple didn't really have factories and established distribution networks already set up. Mm-hmm. So they were able to adapt to the demand much more quickly than the other companies. The head of the company, Charles Tandy, probably after learning that a lot of people wanted it, said it's probably the most important product we've ever built in the company factory, which is funny. 6 months ago, he was probably like, this isn't going to sell. I don't care. And because of the factories they already had and the established distribution network, they were able to start distributing these really fast too. In September, they already had started distributing their models, and they, in October, opened a computer-only store to sell them once they realized how popular it was. And then by December of 77, they'd already delivered 5,000 computers to customers. So even though they were tentative at first, they really jumped on it once they realized how popular it was going to be. Mm-hmm. And due to the 5,500 Radio Shacks that they were selling these at, for several years after it came out, it sold a lot better than the Apple II and the Commodore PET products. So getting into just basically what the hardware was on this when it first came out in 77, the main central board and keyboard and everything were powered by a Zilog Z80 microprocessor, which we've heard about a little bit before. It was initially released with 4 either kilobytes or kilobytes, I'm not sure which, of RAM, and level 1 basic, which was sort of a stripped down version of basic. But it had upgrades that were available for it throughout 78 when new technology came out. It came with a mechanical keyboard, which had a tendency at the time to type extra letters if dust got into the switches. So you just like one keystroke would give you like 5 of the same letter or something. That's probably exaggerating. And they made a point of mentioning that it also had problems if cigarette smoke got in there, because of course everyone was smoking in the 70s and smoking while typing on their keyboards. And so the monitor originally was just black and white lettering, but people actually modified it afterwards so that it could be orange lettering. And then later on, I guess the white lettering was giving such bad eye strain that for later models of it, they released it with the traditional black background and green text. The monitor itself was a slightly converted 12-inch TV from RCA. People said it kind of barely worked, and you could tell that it was a TV that had just been like slapped on a computer. Worked well enough, I guess. And also to save cost and storage space, it could only display capital letters, and no lowercase letters could be displayed. Another interesting thing, which I didn't really know much about with these computers, is that they had different sort of display ratios for the characters, I guess almost like a resolution. And the TRS had a 64 column by 16 character ratio, whereas a lot of the other popular computers had a 40 by 25 or an 80 by 25. So it was also slightly different in that aspect. And of course, it did come with a cassette tape drive, which also apparently did not work very well at the time. And that's about all I had for the hardware and history of the TRS. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on there?
Yeah, just a little bit. I just wanted to talk about the Holy Trinity in general, because we talk about it a lot, but like, what is the deal with these computers? Why are they so much more important than the other ones? By the way, why they're called the Holy Trinity is because Byte magazine referred to them as that in 1977. So I thought that was funny, since we look at Byte magazine every now and then. But essentially, something that I find interesting about all 3 computers is that all 3 of them have the TV monitor, keyboard, and obviously computer itself in one purchase. So that's something that all 3 of them share. The Commodore PET is probably the weirdest of the 3, in my opinion, because the keyboard is like a mini keyboard. It's called a chiclet keyboard.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Which is a little bit different. Apparently the Commodore PET is the one that sells the least out of the 3. As you mentioned, the TRS-80 sells the most in the beginning, but then later, the life cycle of the Apple II was almost a decade longer than the TRS-80, so over time, it sold more. But the TRS-80 definitely, because of its, as you mentioned, the production quality of being with Radio Shack, it just could really sell a lot. But something I found here that I thought was funny, I wanted to see like how long the TRS-80 lasted and what happened to it. And apparently the Model 1 didn't meet FCC regulations on radio interference. I guess it interfered with the radio in the area.
Oh, man.
And then also the Apple IIs had the same issue, but the Apple II resolved the issue with like just some minor changes. And Radio Shack was just like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this. We're just going to sell a Model 2 and we're going to stop making this one. It says that the Model 1 wasn't canceled till 1981. So they had a fair amount of time to sell them. So I don't know. Maybe they just stopped production, but they could still sell what they had. I don't really know. It seems a little like they went around the regulations there.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. All 3, like I mentioned, they have the displays. They have the keyboards. I'm sure all of them had the capability of having mouses or mice, but I don't think any of them were sold with them. And then I think the Apple II definitely had color. I don't think the other 2 did have color.
No, I know the TRS didn't.
Yeah, I think the Commodore PET was basically the same as the TRS-80 in terms of its display, as you mentioned before. So that's definitely an upgrade for the Apple II, although it did cost a lot more than the other ones. And then also having the basic. I know the Commodore PET also had basic, and apparently the Apple II did not originally have basic, which was an issue. So Just some like minor differences, but I feel like there are definitely similarities between all three that make them in this holy trinity level of importance, you know? So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that and talk about them in general. But let's move on to some of the games now, Wes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, before I forget, the reason why we're bringing this up right now is because we talked about the TRS-80 games in our 50th episode, which was a couple episodes ago. So if you want to check out the TRS-80 games, check out that episode. We just didn't have enough time to talk about the TRS-80 in general there. So let's move into today's games. Even though there's no TRS-80, we still got a lot of cool stuff. So let's go check it out. Hello and welcome back. We are going to jump right into the timeline today. We've got a pretty nice one laid out for you guys. We're going to start off here with an honorable mention called B-29 by Universal, which came out in October of 1977. All the games from today are from October or don't have a month date. This one, it looks like an Interceptor type clone, although it has a nice big machine gun peripheral that lets you shoot at planes, which sounds pretty cool. So we don't have any video or emulation of that, just the flyer, but it looked kind of cool. Although it does look like something we've seen previously.
Right. And then getting us started off with the first one that we rated this week, I'm going to be talking about Circus by Exidy.
I cannot wait for this one, Wes. This was like one that I read the title and it's always by Exidy early on in my research. I was like, that's probably going to be a cool one.
Yeah, see,
so I'm just excited.
For whatever reason, I was like, Circus, what could that be? But let me tell you, dude, it's fantastic.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
I do want to say we did see, I think you'd mentioned some possible January dates for this. We don't know if that was typo because it's October and it's 10 or what the deal was, but we think it's October, so that's where we have it. Mm-hmm. But getting started off with just some basic things about the cabinet. It's got some pretty cool designs on the face of the cabinet, just like these pop-out balloon letters that say Circus on the top and that have lights behind them that are pretty cool. And then just some really weird clowns all over the place because it is a circus, but it fits. And in the bottom right corner, there's a bunch of roller skating penguins. I mean, what more could you ask for from a circus? Uh-huh. It does seem like the high score of like right before you start a game, it says like get this score to get a free game, was apparently different every time that you started the game. So like it had a couple different values that it could rotate through, which is pretty neat. Kind of gives you a little bit of randomness there. And this is also one of the first Exidy games that uses a CPU instead of discrete logic circuit kind of game. So it did have an actual microprocessor in it running it. Hal Ivey was also involved in this game's production. We always know he does some great stuff. Yeah. And this is possibly also the first game to have music created through software instead of played off of an onboard 8-track.
Oh, and weird.
I've seen that claim a couple times. I feel like we've heard small music clips in games before, and I don't know what the difference is. Like if it was done on discrete logic and not through software, and that's why people are saying this is the first. But for whatever reason, I've seen that claim, and as I will discuss, whether or not this was the first game with music in it, which I don't think it was definitely one of the first to do it really well. So talking about the gameplay for this, it's basically just an adapted form of Breakout by Atari. You have balloons instead of the bars at the top, and instead of a paddle and a ball bouncing, you have a seesaw and 2 clowns bouncing to hit the balloons, which is so ridiculous. I love it. So basically you bounce the clowns and they have to land on alternate sides of the seesaw, and also, they launch from alternate sides. So it's kind of, you have these weird angles that you're calculating. You get points for each balloon popped, and also you get points for clearing a whole line of balloons. And when you clear a whole line of balloons, it respawns them and you can keep going. There's 3 different colors, yellow, green, and blue, and they get more points the higher up they go in the line. And one of the great things is it plays music whenever a line is cleared, and plays music whenever the clown dies, or quote unquote dies. I don't know. It's pretty harsh. You might actually die. But so then you get 5 jumps, which are basically lives, because the clown kind of comes from the side of the screen and jumps onto the seesaw. And you get an extra jump if you clear the whole top row of blue balloons. And if the clown doesn't land on the seesaw, you lose a jump, which, as I said, might also be dying. I don't really know. It's a circus. I mean, it's a game. He's probably fine. He gets right back up and comes right back out. So I kind of wanted to get straight into my ratings for this because there's not too much I can talk about without spoiling why it made me like this game, basically. So starting off with the graphics, I gave it a 3.5 out of 10. The negatives for this are that it's just black and white. There's at the very top where the balloons are just 3 strips of cellophane or an overlay basically to make the balloons blue, green, and yellow. So the clowns are also those colors whenever they bounce up to the top of the screen. And the screen is just kind of this blank black background, but there's so much stuff going on. It doesn't really feel empty. The clowns themselves, there's 2 of them on screen at a time. They're these like little stick figures, but they have super good animations. Like every time they walk, their legs and arms are just moving all over the place. When they jump off platforms in the side of the screen, they're just like always flailing when they're in the air. So good. They can also do cartwheels whenever they hit a wall and hit balloons. So sometimes their arms are wiggling and they're spinning around in circles. It just feels hilarious and it's super good. It looks great. And really, it totally made up for the fact that the background of the game was black and just kind of like bland because there's so much going on with those clowns.
Mm-hmm.
And even the balloons themselves, I was surprised, look really good. They have pretty good shape to them. Like they're not just floating squares, which is kind of what I would have expected. And they even have like a small blacked out section in the middle, so it looks like shading on it, so you can tell it's supposed to be, a sphere instead of just this flat object. And really just everything about it kind of fits the whimsical, weird, wild feeling of the game, especially the clowns. I mean, that's one of the best parts of the graphics. It's probably simple, but something about how it all works together in this and the clowns moving around like crazy, it just looks so good. So then moving on to sound, I went a little crazy here. And let me explain to you why. I gave it a 4.5 out of 10.
Oh.
It feels weird to me to rate a 1977 game this highly for sound, but they are so good. To start off, the springing off of the seesaw and the bouncing is just like this weird, like atonal, strange boing spring noise. It sounds so good whenever they're launching into the air, and the balloon pop sound is also really good. It's just sharp, quick. It doesn't sound like a beep. It sounds like an actual pop of something, and it's short enough and not annoying enough that it also sounds really good when you get like a bunch in a row, like those really satisfying beeps when you get like 40 blocks bouncing off all the time in a regular breakout. So both of those I think are really important, and it's good that they sound so good because they play so often. But on top of all that, there's songs, and like songs plural, multiple songs that play in this game frequently, which is crazy. Whenever you miss the seesaw and the clown like dies, I guess the funeral march by Chopin plays.
Mm-hmm. That's like a classic in these early games.
Yes, yeah, and also, I mean, I didn't know what it was until I looked it up and saw what the song was, but you'll know which one it is if you hear it. It's very classical, like funeral, sad, cartoony, someone died music sort of thing. Mm. So that plays, which is hilarious, and it is sort of like beeps the way that it plays it, but it still sounds really good. It doesn't sound like too strange and like pongified music, I guess. But then also when you clear a full line of balloons, there's another tune that plays that's actually like pretty long. I want to say it's like 5 seconds, 7 seconds. It seems really long for the game, but it's kind of like this nice break to be like, hey, I did a thing. I celebrate the fact I cleared this line. There's this tune that plays, and then you go straight back into the action. I couldn't figure out which that one was, but I'm sure it's another classical tune. I don't know if it's I'm guessing. I don't think they made up their own music for it.
If I remember right, I think they're all classical songs.
I think so. It kind of makes sense for the time. And those were the only two I heard. There might be another one when you get an extra jump or when you get to a high score, but I didn't hear that one. But overall, just the originality of the sound effects being the balloon pop sound and the bouncing off the seesaw, and then the fact that there's 2 or more songs in this game just really takes arcade cabinet sound to the next level, I feel like.
Yeah. Music is so good.
Yeah, as we've been saying, like anytime there's even like 3 notes played and it's like sort of music, we're like, oh my god, there's some music. It's so good, but it just adds so much to it. So yeah, that was fantastic. I think 4.5 is a lot, but deserving for how good this is and just like how little we see of it.
Sounds like it kind of sets the theme of the cabinet too. Like if you couldn't tell that they were clowns, like you probably can with the sound effects, you know?
Yeah.
So it reinforces the graphics even.
Yes, yeah. All the stuff in this game just kind of ties together to sell this weird, kooky theme super well. So just like the goofy, over-the-top funeral march, it fits in perfectly. So moving on to the gameplay, I gave it a 3 out of 10 for gameplay because it's super fun, and I think it really feels different enough from Breakout that it stands on its own. One of the main differences is that the balloons are constantly moving across the screen instead of, just like being these solid blocks like in most Breakout games. So, if you get 4 in a row, but then a little bit of time passes, they're on the other side of the screen now, and you have like kind of dynamic changing openings that you can go to hit the second row and stuff like that. So that changes up the gameplay a decent bit, and I like that. As you clear all the rows, you get extra lives and the new rows appear, so that's also really great. And just overall, it feels like it plays really well. It feels like the gameplay makes sense. There's added interest of having to catch the clown on the correct side of the seesaw, even though it does make it a little bit more difficult. I think at least it's interesting. And then for relevance, I gave it a 7 out of 10. While Circus, I don't think is really a game that a lot of people would think of immediately and like point out as important in video game history, it does have a lot of stuff that we really aren't seeing put all together in one arcade cabinet. I mean, it's got good graphics, good sounds, good gameplay, all put together in one cabinet. And as we'll see, it's going to inspire tons of clones and licensed version in the years to come. And plus, it's by Exidy, who's always making interesting and relevant stuff. So then overall, I gave it a 4 out of 10. I really didn't know what to expect from this game at first, but it's super good. I mean, the name Circus didn't scream like exciting arcade cabinet to me, but the gameplay is challenging. It feels like it does everything right with the great graphics and amazing sound, good gameplay, and just weird theming. And it's another one of those ones where I didn't have to nitpick like the score looks good, the lines look okay, the sound is like doesn't hurt my ears because everything is just so competent. It's just like an all-around good game. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Circus by Exidy. It's really good.
Nice, man. I'm really glad that you liked it because I knew like from the beginning it was going to be one that would be really cool. But when I first saw the graphics of it, I was like, oh, it's in black and white though. You know what I mean? It kind of like brought me, or not full black and white, but you know what I mean. I was like, oh, maybe it's not going to be as good, but I'm glad you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, maybe it was just the dancing clowns, but the black and white didn't even bother me so much in this one.
Nice.
And then next up, we have an honorable mention of just a bunch of Circus clones and licensed versions. We have Circus and High Jumpers by Elcon, Circus by ADP, Zachariah, and Cherry Leisure, and then also Springboard by Sub Electro and Acrobat by Ventureline.
Yep. A lot of people want to get on that Circus action.
Oh yeah, they knew it was good.
Yeah, so I'm glad you like that. We're going to move on to probably the big one of the episode, I think, Space Wars. And if you remember, Wes, when you did Starship 1, I was like, well, there's one more that comes. That's going to be a big one.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the one. It's Space Wars by Cinematronics. And it's apparently the first like mass-produced arcade game with vector graphics, which is one of its big selling points. Going into this, I knew this was a big game, okay? Let me tell you how big this is, Wes. In 1978, so next year, Replay Magazine and Play Meter both ranked Space Wars as the #1 arcade game of 1978.
Wow.
Yeah. And apparently it was the most popular game of the year. So I was like, okay, this is pretty big. I want to make sure I do this right. But then when I look at it, I'm like, wait a minute. This is just straight up Space War. Like, if you just glance at it, that's what you get from it. And you just played like a Space War game. You did Star Cruiser by Ramtech.
Right.
And you like didn't really like it, and I didn't. I was like, yeah, what do I really like about this one? Like, I was like really confused there for a while. But the more I dug into it, the more like little things I'm like, oh, okay, they polished this up. They polished this up. They added a new feature here. You know what I mean? And I think altogether, this is just kind of a game just like Circus, where every part of it is like very decent. I wouldn't say anything was like, whoa, that's incredible, but there was nothing that was lacking in. The sound's good, the graphics are pretty good, the gameplay is great. So I think all those things combined, and the fact that it's a really good one to come out right after Star Wars, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think that helped a lot with the popularity of it. But this was a big game. I mean, there's no getting around it. This is just like a really popular game. And I'll talk about that more in my relevance. But let me get a little bit further into what the game actually is. It's essentially the original Space War game, which is one of the earliest games that we ever covered, where it's a one-on-one, 2 ships. You got kind of a black and white screen, and you're just trying to shoot each other. Just like in the original Space War, gravity is involved here, so sometimes like your ships they kind of feel like they're on ice a little bit, but with the boosters you can kind of like propel yourself in the right direction. And there's also a star in the middle that on some of the variations of the gameplay will kind of suck you into it. So that's part of it too. I mentioned the variations. One of the kind of interesting things about this cabinet is, you know how on a lot of these cabinets there's a lot of like options that whoever owns the cabinet can do in the back end.
Yeah.
Right? Well, all those options were on the front end, so you could just pick them. In fact, before you loaded the game up, I think they had, I want to say 10 different game modes, and then the users there's actually a numpad or something similar on the cabinet, and you put in what mode you want to play.
Oh, that's crazy for an arcade cabinet.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that helped with the longevity of it for sure. And some of the options are really interesting, like some of them, like the bullets will bounce off the walls. Some of them, they have what's called heavy gravity, which basically means instead of the sliding around, you'll just stop if you don't put any like gas into your vehicle. You know what I mean? So it's much more of almost like a man walking across a field or something. You can just stop and then turn and shoot.
Interesting. Okay.
Some of the variations, like I mentioned, the sun in the middle or a star will affect the gravity. Some of them don't. Some of them will make the whole game run faster or slower. That was like a big thing because they had some of the game modes grouped together in like an easy category and then intermediate and expert. And a lot of those had to do with the speed of the gameplay and how fast the bullets shot and how long they went and stuff. So all that like being in the hands of whoever's playing is like super cool. And I really love that. Getting more into the game itself, there are some like things inside the game that we know that are also really cool. For one thing, each player can fire 4 shots at once, and the shots will wrap around the screen, and you can be hit by your own shots. So it is like, it is crazy feeling because there's 8 bullets and they move fast in the expert modes, man. The rounds can literally take like seconds because someone will get hit. But it just feels like super intense. And I love that, like really hectic feeling, almost like bullet helly. And I really think that's really cool. And then the other thing that it kind of pairs with the vector graphics, which I'll talk about in my graphics rating, but the ships can actually be injured instead of just being destroyed. So you can actually shoot like a wing off and it'll make it so that you can't really move it, but you can still shoot with it as the person who got injured. So there's some times when like you got a partial hit, and that's really interesting too. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that in a game before. Yeah. And of course, that is like, even today, I think it's kind of rare, but it's always really cool when we see stuff like that. So to have that at 77 is like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And it wasn't just like you didn't know what happened. Like the model itself got parts of it stripped away. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, the models themselves are pretty similar to the original Space War. It's kind of like that triangle shape for one, but then the other one I think was more of like an Enterprise type looking ship. But as I get into it, the vector graphics, there's really cool kind of things with that too. So, but that's kind of it. I mean, as far as the gameplay goes, I mean, there's some interesting things there for sure, but nothing like blew me away, you know? But for gameplay, because of all those things, I did give it a 3 out of 10. I think it's just a very fun game. There's no AI. They really want you to play with another person. And I think the hecticness of it and the fact that it has all these options, it's just like a kind of a very fun game and one that you could get really good at if you kept playing it. So I thought, okay, this is pretty fun. It's obviously remembered really well by people. Otherwise, it wouldn't have, done as well as it did. But let me get into the graphics now. Let me talk about vector graphics, because I still don't. Do you really know what vector graphics are, Wes? Because I was like, still don't really know.
I always thought it was just like the almost wireframe, but has like a vanishing point. I don't know.
Yeah, so I looked into it, and basically this is different from what we call raster graphics, which are the pixelated stuff that we have today. It's like JPEGs and PNGs. Those are all raster graphics. Anything that has pixels, essentially, which is like everything. But vector graphics are different because they use mathematical formulas to make the image. So, for instance, if you want to make a diagonal line, it's like the formula like y equals x, right? That's a diagonal line. And then if that line needs to move or whatever, you just have to change the equation on the fly. But what that means is no matter how far you zoom into something, it'll always be crisp because there's no pixels that blur it out eventually.
Right, okay.
So what it means in terms of this game is really, this is very, very crisp looking. I mean, it's kind of wireframe as far as the graphics go. That's kind of what it reminds me of. But it's just like incredibly good to look at. I mean, it's black and white. There's no color here, but it is in space. So it's like, okay. And they have like even flickering stars in the background and stuff. So like, oh, that's really, really cool. And the ships look great. But what is incredible about this game is the crash and explosion animations, because literally all of the lines that built up your ship. So let's take the triangle ship, for instance. It's really more than a triangle, but I'm just simplifying for now.
Right, yeah.
Each one of those edges will just come apart at the seams and start floating away from one another. And when you combine that with more complex characters and even the fact that like little bits and pieces can just float off, it's incredibly satisfying to see somebody die in this game.
Oh yeah, I bet.
It is really cool, and the sound effects help with that too, but it's some of the best looking death animations I've ever seen in this podcast, and that's saying a lot. It's really cool, and obviously it's all incredibly sharp. The ships themselves are pretty small, so you feel like you've got a big play area, and yet they explode into these gigantic, awesome looking explosions full of debris. That's what it feels like, just massive debris coming out. Just really cool to see. And even when someone gets like chipped and you see that debris fly out, that's like super exciting to see. So all that's really cool. It does keep score and has a timer and like an ammo counter and energy that you don't really ever use because the rounds go by so fast. But the vector graphics, just with the explosion animations, it just really makes the game. It's really, really cool to see. And I've even seen some videos of the actual cabinet for this, because the vector display like kind of displays things in a way that's not pixelated. It's kind of like a different experience playing on the actual cabinet. Like if you play this in an emulator, it doesn't feel near as cool. But when you see it in an actual cabinet, you're like, oh, this is really, everything just kind of has a flicker to it that feels like it's glowing or something like along that nature. It's really cool to see, especially with the stars in the background. It just really makes it. All that being said, I gave graphics a 3 out of 10. I really loved them, but it's just black and white. We've seen similar to this a lot. So I thought 3 out of 10 was like good enough to give that graphics like a nice bump for the vector graphics, but it didn't like blow me away or anything either. And then sound. This is like, again, they didn't drop the ball here. Like the sound is really good. You essentially have an engine sound, you've got a fire sound, and the explosion sound is incredibly good and satisfying. It's probably one of the like bassiest big explosion sounds that feel like it's almost like a it feels more like a one of the like a depth charge type sound, like an underwater because it's far away in space. It's just really satisfying. So that helps out a lot. I gave it 3.5 out of 10 for sound because the sounds like I wish there was music, obviously, but if you take music off the table, what do you want from this game? It's like it's got it, and they all sound great, and nothing gets on your nerves. So it's really cool. And then relevance, I give it 8 out of 10. I mean, obviously, this sold really well, and it has a lot of clones that we're going to talk about. And it's interesting to me because it's like, it feels like we're coming full circle where one of the first games we ever talked about was Space War, and here it is now mass produced in a way that's probably a lot more cheap for arcade games and manufacturers and people that own bars and stuff to have. And the gameplay is not that different from it, but there's all these little things. It looks better. The frame rate is fantastic. It feels completely fluid. The sound is great. So it's just a very competent version of this game. And apparently Atari and Midway had the number one spot ever since Replay Magazine did their top 10 of the year until this year. So
ooh,
they were the first ones to take it down. And that also gives me like this feeling like, oh, this company could be like the next big company. And I don't know if it will be or not, but I do remember I read that Cinematronics had about 15 employees when this came out, and within another year it's like over 100. You know, it just explodes for them. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future holds for this company. I think if I remember right, they're going to kind of keep this vector graphic thing going and make several games with this technology. So I was like, this could be really cool and interesting and relevant for the future. So yeah, an 8 out of 10 for relevance for me. And overall, 3.25 out of 10. I just like think the game's great. It's not like the Atari 2600, which made me feel like we were in a new age or something like that. It feels like something that could have come out a couple months ago, and I would have been like, yeah, you know, it's not pushing the envelope, but it's just really good at what it does. So I like it for that reason. But yeah. What do you think, Wes? Could Ramtech have done this?
I mean, based on what I saw before, I don't think so. No, I mean, that one didn't even play super smoothly, if I remember correct, with the way that the bullets went on screen, and just having more than one shot on screen. Like you said, so many small improvements that it's like, yeah, okay, you see this and you're like, okay, it's Space War, whatever. But I can see how all those small little things really add up.
Yeah, I think it also just hit at a good time being right after Star Wars. I know that's what the Ramtech one tried to do as well, but this just did it way more competently, it feels like. So, and it's called Space Wars, so it's pretty, you see that name, you're like, okay, I know what this is.
Yeah, owning up to the inspiration.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. But let's keep it going here. Let's talk about some of these clones.
Exactly. So the next few honorable mentions are Space War clones. We have Space War by Vector Beam, which was a licensed clone of Space Wars. I don't know how the original Space War didn't really get copyright for that name. And then I guess because it was so small, it was like only that like one cabinet or whatever, right?
Yeah, plus wasn't it by Nutting Associates, and I don't think they're really around anymore.
That's true, yes. Maybe it was back up for grabs. And then next up, we have Space Ace by Amutech Limited, which was another clone of Space War.
Yep, and then we got one more called Space Battle by US Billiards, which we think is a clone of Space War, but we don't really have much info. Apparently on the flyer, it said it had obstacles, which I don't really know what that means, but so it could be its own game, but we just really don't have much info for it.
And then next up, we have the second game that I got to take a look at, Meadows Lanes by Meadows Games, which
Oh man,
that had me hyped right from the get-go.
I know we haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah, it's Meadows Games, and they just come out here with this rhyming changed 2 letters from their company name to make a new game, and I love it.
Yeah.
But the game I don't love. It's I'll talk about that a little bit later as I go through this. But just some basic history about, or some facts about the cabinet itself. It's pretty simple. It's just kind of like a couple buttons on the face of it for controlling fast or slow ball, whether the ball goes hooks left or right, and then just sort of simple bowling illustrations all over it. Looks okay, but nothing crazy. It did have a cocktail cabinet version as well, and it was developed right around the same time as Robot Bowl by Exidy. Mm-hmm. So we will see lots of similarities between the two of these. So the gameplay, just starting right off, it's basically exactly the same as Robot Bowl. It's bowling, the lane is going up the center of the screen, your person's at the bottom, and you have all the pins at the top. You kind of just bowl wherever it hits. It says, okay, you knocked over these many pins, they all fall on their side, and then you do a full 10 frames. So basically bowling, in this you can do slow and fast balls, which I don't know how much of a difference that makes, but you can also hook the ball left and right, which at least in the emulators, but I'm pretty sure in the game itself was like the English, basically. Like you just kind of, you don't control it the whole way, but you can do it at any time while the ball is rolling. So you could hit it like right before it hit the pins if you wanted to and get it to do this weird hook.
Right. And I think that is different from the robot bowl that I did, which the hook shots on that were always like a predetermined path that hooked. So that is something a little different.
Right. And honestly probably makes more sense. But of course, this is a video game version of bowling. So it's at least an interesting change. Both sides of the lane just kind of show 10 frames for 2 players. 2-player version of this, you take alternating turns just like normal bowling. And as far as I could tell, I don't think there was an AI mode for this. So that's already one scratch against this versus Robot Bowl.
I don't know if Robot Bowl didn't have AI. It was either 1 player and just high score or 2-player.
Oh, you're right. We've played so many robot games that it was called Robot because it has an AI mode. I just assumed. But no, that's right. It's just called Robot Bowl because it's weird. And
yeah, it had like a weird robot theme to it for some reason.
Right. Okay, so never mind. They're both even on that so far then. Getting into my ratings for this, though, for graphics, I gave it a 1.5 out of 10. There's no color. I've seen a couple different emulated versions of this that had a colored background, but it looked like they all just had a different color overlay, or the way it was emulated had a different color. So I'm assuming it was black and white. Maybe the original version had just like a single color overlay, but nothing too crazy there. The ball in this is a super tiny square. It's not round, so that wasn't great. And there aren't any animations for the bowler at the bottom of the screen. Oh. It's just this like little, I don't know, stick figure-ish dude who, I guess so he had a different color looking like belt. There was just a gap in his stomach, and it looked like his legs and body weren't attached. A little bit strange, and it was at least the bowler looked all right, but not detailed, not exciting. The lane and the pins look all right. The pins especially look pretty good, but just not that great graphically. Mm-hmm. And then for sound, I gave it a 0.5 out of 10. Unfortunately, we couldn't hear a lot of sounds in any of these emulators. A lot of them, when you launch them, say sound doesn't work for this. And we found one where you could hear this slight click or thud whenever the ball is thrown and whenever the pins were hit. But it's really simple. It's the same sound for both the pins being hit and the ball being thrown. So it's not super exciting. And even though there were likely more sounds, we can't really say how good they were. Yeah. And I don't know if they would have been super great unless, maybe there was a tune when you walk on or a tune when you get a strike or something. For gameplay, I gave it a 1.5 out of 10 as well. I didn't want to be too harsh because, it plays 10 frames of bowling and it makes sense, which I feel like is pretty much all you can ask for early arcade games of bowling. But it's just not that interesting. There's not much difference in the slow ball and fast ball as far as how many pins, as far as I could tell. you can maybe time when you do your curveball a little bit better if you're doing a slow to make sure you get a good angle and like pick up a spare or something. But the curves are also a bit weird because before any of the pins fall down, the ball like travels through all the pins and then hits an invisible end of the lane. And it was the same in Robot Bowl, I think, right?
Yeah, it was.
So it's like, okay, I did this curveball, but then the disconnect of like the time of not seeing it directly fall down when your ball does this curveball, it just feels like it's random. I'm sure it's not, or at least there's, hitting it here makes these pins fall most of the time. I'm sure there's something like that, but just seeing like
so
this.
You felt like in Robot Bowl, one of the things I liked about it was like if I threw the bowling ball at the same place every time, I'd get the same result every time, which kind of made it easy to game, but at least it felt fair that way. So yours, you felt it was more random what the ball would do when it hit.
Well, I might have actually, in all the videos and when I played it myself, been trying different things every time. So it might have been repeatable, but it just felt weird, I guess, the way that it displays the pins falling afterwards. And when especially since you could do the curveball while the ball was in the middle of the lane, it made the timing really strange. Mm-hmm. So maybe it probably was predictable, but overall the gap in the timing of when they fall down just kind of felt weird for a bowling game. I wasn't a huge fan of that. So then for relevance, I gave it a 3 out of 10. I think Meadows Lanes kind of lost out on any potential like early arcade bowling game relevance when it was beat out by Robot Bowl.
That's true.
It kind of plays the exact same game, except it doesn't really make any big changes to gameplay, visuals, or sound. And I would even say that the visuals in Robot Bowl, partly because they're weird, are better. Like there's an animation for the dude walking at the bottom, and he looks crazy, and the ball is a slight circle, whereas like it's just this tiny square in Meadows Lanes. So not super relevant there. So then overall, I just gave it a 1.5 out of 10. I think the best thing about Meadows Lanes by Meadows Games is that it's named Meadows Lanes and it's by Meadows Games. It's fantastic. I can't believe I said that because I didn't plan on doing that and it worked out. And other than that, it's just kind of like an okay game of bowling. Feels like Robot Bowl does all the same things, but slightly better just because of the slightly better graphics. And I don't know. I didn't want to be too harsh on it because it's a Meadows Games and it's bowling. And I'm like, okay, this could be pretty fun, but just nothing about it really does it for me, to be honest.
Yeah. And I'm like thinking like some of the things I loved about Robot Bowl was like the fact that you could see all 10 frames on the screen. But like now that it's been done, it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Part of it is by comparison. Like I said, with the relevance, all the things that would have been cool. Exactly like you said, the 10 frames, the fact that it shows the whole thing and it shows all the pins and you actually bowl down the lane.
And it had like a spare, right? And a strike icon.
Right, like it shows all that accurately and it looks good. It's just, those were small things that made Robot Bowl like, hey, it's a cool bowling game that works. And then for the second version, those are just like, you got to do something a little bit more.
Yeah. And I feel like also we kind of expect more from Meadows Games, right? I mean, they usually have their own spin on things, but like if you didn't know that they were made independent, you would think that it was a clone.
Basically, they look almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
That is my impression of Meadows Lanes. It's all right. I like to see Meadows Games making more games, but not my favorite. I'll leave it at that, I guess.
You know what? Playing these bowling games have made me think like current day bowling games, is it kind of just the same exact gameplay though?
I mean, yeah.
It makes me feel like, wait a minute, why do people still play bowling games? Like, unless it's the Wii bowling, which I would be like, okay, that's a good bowling game, but or maybe they have like power-ups and stuff. I don't know, but
right, yeah, it's either got to be like crazy bowling, like Mario Golf except bowling, or you're actually doing motion control, so it's more of like a simulation. Otherwise, you're like, it's basically Robot Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. But moving on, we got some clones for Meadows Lanes here. We got Super Bowling by Venture Line Inc., who I think they've already did a licensed version of something else today, didn't they?
I think they might have, yeah.
Yeah, they did Acrobat from Circus. They're just stealing people's ideas.
At least it's licensed and not clones, or at least for some of them.
For some of them, at least, yeah. Oh, and that's actually the only one for Meadows Lanes.
Yeah, like we said, it wasn't a super hit, we don't think. But then our next honorable mention is Super Death Chase by Exidy.
Oh,
Sounds great. It's Exidy, sequel to Death Chase with slightly improved graphics and two-player support, but it never made it to a full production release, so we don't really have much info on it.
yeah. I did see a kind of like a picture of a cabinet though, and it's like, oh, this is total metal, and now we've got two players running over people. Sounds awesome.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, never made it. But that's gonna move me to the last one that I rated today, and the last one that we rated today is called Destroyer by Atari. And this is an interesting kind of sequel slash Drop Zone 4 type game. Maybe I should start calling them like what depth charge games, because it's a lot more like that, which you did not too long ago.
Right.
But essentially, you're a destroyer on the top of the screen, and you're throwing down, mines to get the submarines at the bottom. So it's like when I found that out, I was like, oh, this is gonna suck. Like we've seen it a million times, but I kind of like didn't think that it was Atari. It's like, oh, wait a minute, Atari's making this. They can do good games. So let me get into what Destroyer is. I mean, the basics of it are what I mentioned. You're a destroyer across the screen. Unlike Depth Charge, the ship at the top goes constantly left to right or right to left, and you can't control its speed or anything. It's just kind of a constant motion. So it's much more of just a timing game of getting those charges down. But then the other thing that this does that it makes it unique and different from all the other games that do this is that you've got a dial which sets what depth that the actual charge goes off. So if you have that dial too low, then the charge could go right through a submarine and not go off, and then go off below it. And if you turn it too high, it'll go off before it touches the submarine.
Oh, cool.
So you have to not only time it, but get the dial right so that it goes off right at the right level. And that's where the gameplay lies. And I do think that's a kind of a nice little addition. I think it's kind of gimmicky in a way, but it does make this game stand out and be a little bit different from the other ones, which I enjoy for sure. I kind of want to just get into my ratings because I got to talk about these graphics, Wes. These graphics are kind of insane. This is like the big factor for this cabinet, I think. The sprites themselves are kind of normal. We've got two different submarines, which is not a whole lot of variety. We've got a dotted line, which is what depth that the charges go off. The charges themselves look pretty decent, I think. The explosions look pretty good. It kind of looks like things go into 1,000 pixels when they explode, but it's not like they kind of float apart and have gravity like the ones did in Space Wars. But
right,
it's more of just a sprite, but it looks pretty good. And then the destroyer at the top looks really nice. I think you can even see like a little smokestack and smoke coming out, which is cool. And it has like a little bit of pixelated line right where the destroyer is on, which makes it look like waves or something that is the top of the ocean, which is nice. So all that is cool, but the real thing is the painted background that this is on. It's super nice. The top is like, you get some rocks and this kind of orangish sunset kind of top of the ocean, and then you go below and it's like an ocean scene, underwater rocks and fish and stuff. And then even better, not only do you have a hand painted background, but then you also have 3D cardboard cutouts hand painted in front of the screen at the bottom that are fish and mines. So you actually get a 3D effect looking at this cabinet.
Almost like Starship One had with like the inside of the hangar bay kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I think there could be like even 3 or 4 different layers of cardboard, and they're painted to look exactly like the hand painted background at the very end. And it's just really, really high quality. I mean, there's even like a little diver there. There's like the 3D cardboard, it's kind of got this orange and blue going on, just like the top and bottom of the hand painted background. You got like hand painted fish. I mean, it's just beautiful to look at. And it does kind of obstruct the screen a little bit, but I think the game is programmed knowing that. So the stuff at the very, very bottom, like it doesn't go to the very bottom of the screen. They don't use all that because there's some cardboard there.
Right.
But in general, it's just like, it looks incredible. Weirdly enough, I don't think the cabinet looks that good, like on the outsides of it. It's just kind of like standard ship kind of designs. But once you actually put your head in there, it's just really cool to see. And the hand painted backgrounds, like we said it 1,000 times, they just look like incredible. So, and since it's Atari, like the quality's good there. So, all that said, I gave graphics 3.25 out of 10, just because like as cool as all the hand painted stuff is, none of that's like in the game.
Right.
The sprites in the game look good, but there's not a whole lot of variety there. It's a destroyer and 2 subs, and then some like miscellaneous little things, but that's really it. But that, to me, that's like the big sell of this cabinet. The gameplay itself, I mentioned it. You're just dropping charges. You have to be careful about what depth you put them at, but as long as you're paying attention and you're kind of planning things out far enough ahead, like you can't just like keep randomly dropping stuff or you're never going to get it. This does reward like more skilled players, I think, which is great. Because like I think even you mentioned previously in depth charge that you were trying to go for these more expensive subs at the bottom, and other subs would like intercept and like kamikaze
basically,
and prevent that from happening. But in this game, that never happens. So it does reward players. Although I feel like the highest score targets, they're the ones that move really fast. So unless you see them like almost immediately as they spawn, it seems like it's much more rare to get those. So maybe it is more skill based. It does feel a little bit RNG just because of how the spawning works. Also, your ship, I mentioned it goes left to right or right to left across the screen. That is random. So sometimes it'll go like left to right, and then it can go left to right again, or it goes the other way, and you won't know until it starts. So that can make it a little bit harder to plan out when the timings are and things as well. So I don't think it's like a perfectly balanced thing, no RNG, all skill based, but there is skill there, and I enjoyed that. But to me, the gameplay, I've kind of seen it before. It didn't change enough for the gameplay for me to really like excite me over it. So I just gave it a 2 out of 10. For sound, again, I don't know if it's like Space Wars level quality sound, but basically everything you want is there. Explosions, engine sounds, and that classic sonar sound. So it's all there. It all sounds fine. It's just, again, nothing really wowed me with that. It's called kind of, I've heard it all before in depth charge in other games, and it didn't really stand out to me the same way that the massive bass explosions of Space Wars did. Right. So just 2.25 out of there. And then finally, relevance. I don't know. I gave it 6 out of 10. Like we've seen this type of game before. It is Atari, so it definitely has some relevance and weight there. And I know Atari even ports this over to their consoles later, so we will see stuff with that. But I don't know. Like, if you're an independent developer, I don't know if this one would influence you more than some of the other ones. So right. Just 6 out of 10 there, mainly because of it's Atari. And the total 2.5 out of 10. Like, it's decent amount of fun. It changed it up a little bit, but I think I'm just a little tired of seeing this type of game.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, so the gameplay it wasn't quite there, but the graphics are like incredible. Just looking at the cabinet, but again, that's like an artist handwork that's doing the like work there. It's not necessarily the sprites. But yeah, that's Destroyer, Wes. Are you glad that you didn't have to do this one again?
I'm glad that I didn't have to do it right after Depth Charge, because I'm sure, even though it's a good game, I would have torn into it and just been like, I didn't do anything new. I hate it. And just, I like Depth Charge, but I agree. It's nice to get some distance from those type of games.
Yeah, I need a little bit of distance. Even though I had that dial thing, it's like, but it's still the same though. Come on.
Right. Still target hitting thing, timing based, shooting gallery kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up then with our last honorable mentions for the day. Next up we have Gunman by Taito, which is a Western gun type game, but we don't have too much info on it. Sounds like it could be pretty cool. And then we have the Basic Software Volume 1 by Software Records, which was a vinyl that had games on it, including like Lunar Lander, something that sounds strange called Ample Annie, that I don't want to delve into too much what that was, but this was just advertised on as part of Byte magazine in October, and we thought it sounded weird and interesting.
Yeah, a vinyl. Like, what do you even? How do you even play that?
Yeah.
And then two more here. We got Super Highway by Taito. Came out again in October, and this is just a clone of 280 Zap or Night Driver. And I don't think there's any real improvements, although it does say super at the beginning, so it makes me feel like there might be something there, but none that I could really see. And then finally, we have Empire. And do you know about Empire, Wes? It's a very classic, like, old computer game, like inspiring civilization and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
This is the original game by Walter Bright. He said he first wrote it in 77, and he actually has code of a 1977 version. Although I tried to look into it as hard as I could, and I just don't know how to run the code.
Yeah.
But other versions come later that are ported to other systems. This was like his private version that he and his friends knew. You know what I mean? It's not like the version that inspired Civilization. So we will cover that when it comes out. It's not going to come out for a couple years, I think. But he does have a version of it dating back to 77, which is interesting.
Nice.
So that probably shows you how like epic the game is going to be when it comes out, because it'll be in development for like 5 years or something. So yeah, and that'll do it for us today, guys. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I feel like all the games today were like pretty decent, honestly. I know like Meadows Lanes and Destroyer. Did I say Meadows Lames?
Oh, that's a Freudian slip there.
Yeah. And Destroyer were not like the best, but I don't think they were like terrible either. And then Space Wars and Circus just like were great games. I don't think either one like were really pushing the envelope, but they're just incredibly solid. So
yeah, and I do think, I mean, at least the music in Circus is getting a little crazy. It might be.
Well, you didn't get to hear Boot Hill, Wes. That had 4 different songs, and one of them was the same the funeral sound or march or whatever.
You're right. So at least this is showing us that more games can follow that trend, hopefully.
Yeah, it's good that you could hear that, because I've just been getting the good ones lately. I don't know.
And so, as always, make sure to send us an email if you have any questions. Check us out on Twitter for announcements about our episodes, and check out our website. We just put up some new images and GIFs of the games, so you can get an idea about what all this stuff is that we're actually talking about.
Yep, and with that, we'll catch you in the next episode.
See y'all next time.